Process where we will be getting buckets for the November 8th, 2016 NBA slate. My name is Stephen Porter, and you can find me on Twitter at Stephen Porter Jr. If you are tuning into this, you're probably already well aware of exactly what we're going to be doing here. But just in case, I'll be starting with the highest total NBA game tonight and then working down to the lowest to try to figure out exactly who will be getting the most buckets in every game. So to start us off tonight, we have the Portland Trail Blazers going on the road as 7-point favorites to face the Phoenix Suns. The game has a 218.5 total. Both of these teams are top 10 in the NBA in pace, and neither is particularly strong defensively. So this is definitely a game that we're going to want to target tonight on our DFS rosters. To start with Portland, they have two clear usage leaders. Damian Lillard, who is 9.1K on DraftKings, has a 32.7% usage rate. CJ McCollum, who is 7.1K on DraftKings, has a 27% usage rate. Now, CJ has the easier matchup out of the two, facing off with Devin Booker, who is not a very strong individual defender at this point in his career, whereas Damian has to go up against Eric Bledsoe, who is a pretty strong defender. So when you take into account the tougher individual matchup, I think I'll be going down 2K to get CJ onto my rosters tonight, especially in cash games. Damian is always in play because he carries just an incredible ceiling every time he steps onto the court because of his amazing shot-making ability. But I don't think tonight is the night to really go all in on him. The next guy I want to target with Portland is Mason Plumlee. He only has an 18.3% usage rate, and he's not exactly a good shooter. But what he lacks in shooting, he makes up for with his rebounding, assist, and defensive statistic totals. And especially in a game like this with a very high pace and a very high total, I think Plumlee can rack up enough, peripheral statistics to make up for the fact that he doesn't score a lot. And if he does score 10 plus points, you are probably going to be really happy with his fantasy outpoint tonight. So we also have to talk about the wings on Portland. Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless are guys that I don't really play ever. It's tough to peg when they're going to take shots and if they're going to make them when they do take them. Harkless is a better shooter than Aminu. He's also cheaper. If I was picking between the two, I would take Harkless, but I don't think I'm looking to take either of them. Evan Turner and Alan Crabb are guys that you can consider off the bench. Alan Crabb just doesn't have the minutes and volume to consider for me, whereas Evan Turner is just not a very good shooter and not somebody I'm really ever looking to play. For Phoenix, we have the aforementioned poor defense but good offense, Devin Booker. Hello everyone, and welcome to The Process, where we will be getting buckets for the November 8th, 2016 NBA slate. My name is Stephen Porter, and you can find me on Twitter at Stephen Porter Jr. If you are tuning into this, you're probably already well aware of exactly what we're going to be doing here, but just in case, I'll be starting with the highest total of the 6 NBA games tonight and working down to the lowest to try to identify exactly who will be getting the most buckets from each game. So tonight we'll start with the Portland Trail Blazers, who are 7-point favorites going on the road to face the Phoenix Suns in a game with a total of 218.5. Both of these teams are in the top 10 in the NBA in pace, and neither is particularly strong defensively. For the Trailblazers, there are two clear usage leaders. We have Damian Lillard at 9.1K on DraftKings, who has a 32.7% usage rate. CJ McCollum is 2K cheaper at 7.1K, and he has a 27% usage rate. When you consider the 2K in savings, as well as the fact that CJ has a much easier defensive matchup with Devin Booker, who is not much of a defender at this point in his career, while Damian has to match up against Eric Bledsoe, who is a pretty strong defender, I think I'll be targeting CJ McCollum for my cash games tonight. Damian is, of course, always an option. He has a ridiculous ceiling anytime he is taking the court because of his amazing shot making ability, but I don't think I'll be using him heavily tonight. Mason Plumlee, who has an 18.3% usage rate and costs 5K on DraftKings, is also in play for me tonight. Not a great scorer, not a great shooter, but given his ability to rack up rebounding numbers, assist numbers, and defensive Hello everyone, and welcome to The Process, where we will be getting buckets for the November 8th, 2016 NBA slate. My name is Stephen Porter, and you can find me on Twitter at Stephen Porter Jr. If you're tuning into this, you're probably already well aware of exactly what we're going to be doing here, but just in case, I'll be starting with the highest total of the NBA games tonight and working my way down to the lowest to try to identify exactly who's going to be scoring the most buckets in each game. To start with tonight, we have the Portland Trailblazers going on the road to face the Phoenix Suns as 7-point favorites in a game with a total of 218.5. Both of these teams are in the top 10 in the NBA in pace, and neither is particularly strong defensively. For the Trailblazers, we have two clear usage leaders. Damian Lillard, who is 9.1K on DraftKings, has a 32.7% usage rate. CJ McCollum, who has a 7.1%, man. Hello everyone, and welcome to The Process, where we will be getting buckets for the November 8th, 2016 NBA slate. My name is Stephen Porter, and you can follow me on Twitter at Stephen Porter Jr. If you're tuning into this, you're probably already well aware of what we're going to be doing here, but just in case, I'll be starting with the highest total of the NBA games tonight and then working my way down to the lowest to try to identify exactly who will be getting the most buckets in each game. To start with tonight, we have the Portland Trailblazers going on the road to face the Phoenix Suns as 7-point favorites. This game has a total of 218.5. Both of these teams are top 10 in the NBA in pace, and neither is a very good defensive team. For Portland, we have two clear usage leaders. Damian Lillard, who is 9.1K on DraftKings, has a 32.7% usage rate. CJ McCollum, who is 7.1K on DraftKings, has a 27% usage rate. CJ draws the much easier defensive matchup with Devin Booker, who is not a very good defender at this point in his NBA career. And given the 2K savings to drop down from Damian to CJ, I'll be taking him in my DraftKings cash games tonight. Damian is always in play because of his incredible shot making, but I don't think tonight is the night that I'll be going all in on him. Mason Plumlee, who has an 18.3% usage rate and is 5.0K on DraftKings, is always in consideration because of his ability to rack up defensive statistics as well as rebounding and assist numbers. In a game that's going to have this kind of pace and has this kind of total, he can probably get you to 6x value without even scoring 10 points. And if he does manage to score 10 points, you're probably going to be very happy that you rostered him. Not sure I'll be using him in cash games, but definitely somebody I'll be looking at in tournaments because I think he probably carries a 40 to 45 DraftKings point ceiling tonight, and I don't think he'll be very popular. On the wing for Portland, we have Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless. Neither of these guys takes a lot of shots. Neither of these guys makes a lot of shots. Mo Harkless is definitely the better shooter. If I was picking between the two, I would definitely go with Mo, but I'm probably not going to be looking at either of these guys tonight. Off the bench for Portland, we have Alan Crabb and Evan Turner. Crabb just isn't seeing the kind of volume that we need, and Evan Turner is just not a very good shooter. Not a guy I'm really ever looking to roster without some type of injury. For Phoenix, their usage leader is Devin Booker at 28.6%. He's only 6.6K on DraftKings tonight. He also has shooting guard and small forward eligibility. Definitely a guy that I will be looking to roster tonight. He made my initial cash game build, but based on some late breaking news, I'm not sure if he'll end up there. Speaking of late breaking news, we have Tyson Chandler, center for the Suns, who was not present at shoot around this morning. Considering this game is a West Coast game, I don't know if we will find out before lock whether or not he will actually be available in this game. If we would find out that he's not playing, Alex Len at 4K for the Suns is definitely a guy that I will have in my cash games and probably most of my tournament rosters. Great chance at a double-double in this game should he see 30 plus minutes as a starter. TJ Warren is second in usage on the Suns at 24%. He's 6.9K on DraftKings. Definitely a guy I like as a player. I like the amount of shots he's getting, but at 6.9K, he may have priced himself out of cash game consideration for me, but definitely somebody you can consider in tournaments, and I wouldn't try to talk you off playing him in cash either. Eric Bledsoe, 23.5% usage rate. Just not really seeing the amount of shots that I'd like to see from a guy at his price point. You can go up 400 to get CJ on the other side of this matchup, who has a 3.5% higher usage. So Bledsoe kind of in play, but definitely not a guy I'm strongly targeting in cash games. Not really looking to play anybody else off the Suns bench. And with that said, like I said, CJ definitely strongest play for me from this game, and a guy that I'm pretty sure is going to make both of my cash game rosters on DraftKings and FanDuel, regardless of what news we get from now until lock. Next highest total on the slate is the Minnesota Timberwolves going on the road to face the Brooklyn Nets. Minnesota is a 5-point favorite here, and this game has a total of 207.5. Minnesota's actually been playing at a very slow pace, only 97.95 possessions per 48 minutes. Brooklyn, however, is playing at 103.32 possessions per 48 minutes. So this is definitely a spot to target Minnesota. They could see a couple extra possessions here. Their usage leader has been Andrew Wiggins at 28% usage rate on the year. However, I expect Wiggins to have a pretty tough individual defensive matchup with Rondae Hollis-Jefferson on the other side. So instead of Wiggins, I'll probably be looking to target Karl Anthony Towns in this matchup. Towns has a 26.2% usage rate, and he should do battle with either Trevor Booker or Brook Lopez in the starting unit. Not sure which one he'll see. Don't think it matters. Given his individual talent level, he can get buckets on pretty much anybody in the league right now. So neither of them is going to scare me off of rostering him. The one thing I am a little concerned about with Towns is that he had a little bit of a back tweak in the last game they played, so that causes a little hesitation, but I just like the matchup too much. I think I'll take my chances and go ahead and roster Cat in cash tonight. Another consideration from the Timberwolves is Zach LaVine. He has a 22% usage rate and is 6.3K on DraftKings. Should see a pretty good individual defensive matchup if Rondae Hollis-Jefferson matches up with Wiggins, because he should see Bojan Bogdanovic, who definitely will not have the lateral quickness to stay in front of him or close out to him behind the three-point line. So definitely a guy I think you can consider tonight. Moving on, Gorgie Jang, 15.4% usage rate. He's had some pretty strong games on his defensive and rebounding numbers. Not a guy I'm really looking to target in cash. I need more shot attempts than he's giving me. Kind of the same thing with Chris Dunn here. He was a pretty good target when he was only in that 4K range, but now that he's up at 5.4K, his 15.6% usage rate is probably not going to get it done for me. None of the Timberwolves bench players are really seeing enough minutes or shots for me to consider them in cash. So moving on, definitely my favorite play from Brooklyn tonight will be Sean Kilpatrick. Jeremy Lin is out for the near future. And without Lin, who is carrying a very high usage rate, we've seen Kilpatrick's usage rise by about 4.5%. He's only 5.4K on DraftKings, and I think that's a pretty reasonable price for him in this matchup. I'm not really scared of anybody that we'll see matching up with him on the Timberwolves side. Brook Lopez is seeing a 35.6% usage rate without Lin. Really tough to pass on him at that kind of usage rate at only 6.5K on DraftKings. But both of the Timberwolves big men are pretty good individual defenders, and they've really been limiting Lopez's minutes. So I just don't think he's strong enough to consider in cash, but definitely an awesome tournament play because he's carrying some insane ceiling with that 35.6% usage rate, just in case he does see a lot of minutes in this game tonight. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson is somebody that you can definitely consider for the Nets. He's only got a 12.1% usage rate, but he is a good defender. He can give you rebounding statistics. He can give you defensive statistics. And the same kind of thing as we saw with Plumlee in Portland. If he does score 10 real points, you're probably going to be really happy with his fantasy outpoint for the night. Moving on, next highest total on the slate, we have Atlanta Hawks visiting the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland is an 8-point favorite in this game with a 207 total. I think Atlanta is kind of fraudulent at this point in the year. They haven't really played anyone. They're carrying an 11 net rating, which is one of the higher in the leagues, but they've played my Wizards twice, who are not very good at this point. They played Philly. They haven't played anybody near the caliber of the Cavs. I think the Cavs could actually run away with this one because I don't think Atlanta is that good. And I do think the Cavs are a very, very good basketball team. Kyrie Irving is leading the Cavs in usage at 29.3. LeBron a close second, 27.9, and Kevin Love rounding out this high usage trio at 27.3%. I think all three of these guys are strong considerations for DK cash games as well as tournament. If Atlanta is able to keep this game pretty close, I think any of them could really produce a 6x or higher in this matchup. Thabo Sefolosha will be starting for Kyle Korver, who is going to miss this game tonight. He just had a child. So Thabo is a little tougher defensive matchup than we would normally see for LeBron in this matchup, but LeBron is kind of matchup proof, so that's not something I'm concerned with. I don't think Dennis Schroeder is a very good player. I don't think he's a very good fantasy option either. Doesn't scare me off of using Kyrie. Millsap is definitely the toughest individual defensive matchup out of the three. So I would probably lean towards Kyrie or LeBron, but definitely still think Love is in play here. For the Hawks, clear usage leader is Paul Millsap at 27.5%. Don't think Love is going to pose much of a defensive, matchup for him. I'm totally fine with targeting him at 7.9K in this matchup. Dennis Schroeder, not really a guy I'm ever going to target. He's put up some reasonable fantasy outputs, but again, hasn't seen the kind of defense that he'll see tonight. Not that I think that Kyrie is a great defender, but just in general, not really looking to target the Cavs with him. Dwight Howard, 24.4% usage rate. I think he's a reasonable play. Like I said, I'll probably be targeting Karl Anthony Towns. I think he's a much better offensive player and has similar projections across the board as Howard. And he's only, 1K more expensive. So again, not a guy I'm going to be looking at in cash, but I suppose you could use him in tournaments. Back to Tabo. He's only carrying a 13.7% usage rate. Somebody I think you could consider who will probably see at least 30 minutes in this matchup to guard LeBron, and he's only 4K. Definitely somebody that could provide salary relief. The other guy that stands to benefit most from Korver's absence is Tim Hardaway Jr. at only he's got a 22.1% usage rate. That could be even a little higher tonight without Korver. He's going to be the main bench scorer. 3.6K on DraftKings. Definitely a guy I think you could look to. And if Cleveland is able to run over Atlanta in this matchup, he could definitely get a lot of garbage time, minutes, and shot attempts. Definitely a guy I think is actually cash viable and a pretty strong tournament option in this game. Kent Bazemore, not really a guy I'm looking at, but I guess you could consider him. 18.5% usage rate, only 5K. I'll probably be looking elsewhere tonight. Next matchup to look at will be the Dallas Mavericks going on the road to face the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers are 5-point favorites here. Dallas actually has a couple of guys out tonight. We've already had confirmation that Darren Williams and Dirk Nowitzki will be out. Without Darren and Dirk on the court this season, Harrison Barnes has seen a 5.8% usage increase to 29.8%. He's a guy that I will definitely be using across the industry in all of my cash games. Not too concerned with the defensive matchup, even though the Lakers have been a little bit better this year. The shot volume is going to be there. He was terrible in the preseason, but he's kind of shown here in the regular season that he can hit shots. I'll let him burn me just to get a piece of that shot volume that he should see tonight. JJ Barea is the other guy, seeing a considerable bump in usage without Darren and Dirk on the court. He's seen a 2.3% increase in usage up to 27%. Not scared of any of the Laker guards. Another guy that I'm definitely going to be using in all of my cash games across the industry. I think you can pretty much just click on Harrison Barnes and JJ Barea and then keep it moving. Andrew Bogut is only 4.2K on DraftKings. Not a guy that really gets any kind of shot attempts, but at 4.2K, if he's going to see 30 plus minutes in this matchup, I definitely think he's playable in cash. Not sure I'll be going there. It'll depend on what happens with Chandler. I will definitely play Alex Len over Chandler if he's a starter. But if we don't get news, I could see going with Bogut at 4.2K in cash. A couple other guys to consider from Dallas. Justin Anderson started but only saw 10 minutes in the last game. I think he's a pretty good player. I doubt anybody's going to play him tonight, and you could certainly play him with some upside if he would get those 30 minutes at probably a low ownership in tournaments. Wes Matthews shot 3 of 17 the last game. This is a much easier defensive matchup. He's probably going to see Uncle P, the formerly known as Swaggy P. Not really a guy I'm scared of on the defensive end, but it's just going to be tough for me to target him given the lack of shot making ability that he has shown recently. But you could probably capitalize on that because most people are probably hesitant to use him and get him at pretty low ownership in tournaments with obviously some considerable upside with the shot attempts and the minutes that he should see in this game. Dallas also rolled out some guy I've never heard of in the last game, Dorian Finney-Smith. He's minimum price, $3K on DraftKings, and he saw over 30 minutes in the last matchup. I mean, he's a guy to consider if you need a min price punt. He put up some defensive statistics. I really don't know anything about him, but I'm not seeing any other minimum guys that I'm looking to target on this slate. So moving on to the Lakers. The Lakers have actually been surprisingly good this year. They have an offensive rating of 104.8. And a defensive rating of 103. Definitely a team to target. They're also carrying a 105.25 pace this year, which should get Dallas up in pace a little bit and make their guys even more attractive, as if you needed another reason to roster them tonight. D'Angelo Russell at 28.6 is the usage leader for the Lakers. I'm having an issue with the Lakers' minutes. Not really many guys seeing 30 minutes a night on this team. Russell's a guy I want to target. I would love to get 35, 36 minutes out of him, but I just don't know. A guy who's in play, definitely for tournaments, and if you can deal with the fact that you might not get 30 minutes out of him, but should still get plenty of shot attempts and a pretty good matchup, I think you could roster him in cash. Lou Williams off the bench is second on this team with a 25.7% usage rate. Again, you might want to take the savings with Lou since the minutes have been very evenly distributed on this team. Jordan Clarkson, 24.9% usage rate, another guy to consider. The aforementioned Uncle P has really played well this year, and if you're buying that, I think he's a very viable option tonight. Julius Randle at a 19.9% usage rate. Definitely a guy I think is a good option in this game. Dallas has a 48% rebounding rate, whereas the Lakers are 51.7. I think Randle could see some success on the boards. We've seen him post assist totals. When he gets those boards, he usually turns and runs down the court to looking to create offense. At 6.7K, I definitely think he's in play, but kind of the same issue I'm having with the rest of the Lakers. Not sure what to expect from them as far as their minutes go tonight. Timofey Mozgov, not a guy I'm really looking to play. I'd probably rather play Bogut. Just not a guy I'm going to play. All right, moving on to the next game. Next highest total on the slate is the Pelicans traveling to take on the Sacramento Kings. The Kings are 6-point favorites in this game. The total is 203, and the Pelicans are on a back-to-back here. Sacramento gets back Darren Collison from his 8-game suspension. Collison coming back here pretty much takes anyone on this team other than Collison or Boogie off the table for me. I'm always looking for excuses not to play Rudy Gay. And Collison coming back and eating into some of his usage is a good enough reason for me to fade him completely. Boogie, I think, should be fine. I don't think Collison is going to do too much to his usage, which is at 34.7% on the season. At 10.4K, against a team which is the worst rebounding team in the league. I definitely think Boogie could put up a pretty large stat line tonight. I'm probably going to go a little more balanced in my cash game construction tonight, but I certainly wouldn't try to talk you off of playing him. On the other side of this coin, I think Boogie is actually a better play than Anthony Davis. We've seen Davis's usage really continue to fall after he was just an absolute monster to begin the season. I'm not sure why he's not shooting it 40% of the time that the Pelicans possess the ball, but he's down to a 32.3% usage rate right now. With his price at 11K, that's probably going to put him off of consideration for me in cash games, but he's always carrying that ridiculous ceiling. That 5x5, 40 point, 15 rebound ceiling, so he's always going to be in play in tournaments. Tim Frazier is second on this team with a 20% usage rate, with Lance Stevenson going out for the season, and Archie Goodwin not really being a factor for this team tonight. I think Frazier is actually a legitimate option. He's cheaper on FanDuel than he is DraftKings. I'll probably play Darren Collison over him on DraftKings, but I definitely think he's an option on FanDuel at the worst. And I don't think Etuan Moore at 4.1K and 19.4% usage rate is actually a guy I'm looking to target here for the Pelicans. Sacramento is always just torched by shooting guards. Not a huge fan of Etuan Moore's individual talent level, but at the low price for him in a good matchup, I definitely think he's in play. Langston Galloway at 3.4K on DraftKings is a guy that I'm not totally opposed to using if you need the salary relief. He's seen a 34.8% usage rate without Lance Stevenson on the floor. Definitely a guy I think can get you to that 20, 21 point DraftKings threshold that you need for cash games. Maybe with actually a little upside for more in a strong matchup here. Sacramento is one of the worst defensive teams in the league, carrying a 107.8 defensive rating. So definitely a couple guys to target in this game. Moving on to the last game for the slate, we've got the Denver Nuggets traveling to take on the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis is a 3-point favorite here in a game with a total of 200.5. Couple injury notes here. Mike Conley is going to give it a go tonight. He had some Achilles and hamstring troubles. I wish he was at 100% because he's a guy I would really like to target in this matchup. Denver is one of the fastest paced teams at 103.46 possessions per 48 minutes. So this will definitely be a pace up game for Memphis. Marc Gasol is actually a pretty strong consideration for me at 28% usage. And again, he's going to have probably a couple extra possessions to use tonight. Zach Randolph, actually carries a monster 32% usage, but he's probably not getting enough minutes off the bench for me to consider in cash games. Always going to give you, that 2010 possibility off the bench, but I'll probably be looking elsewhere in cash. James Ennis is a guy that's, I guess, worthy of consideration. Just not really seeing the kind of usage that I personally will be looking for in cash games. Moving on to the Nuggets. Nuggets usage leader has actually been Emmanuel Mudiay at 28%. He gets a tough matchup with Mike Conley, but again, if you don't think Mike Conley is 100% healthy, which it sounds like he isn't, that might bump up the matchup for him a little bit, and definitely put him into consideration in cash. Doubt he'll be highly owned in tournaments, so definitely a guy I can see rostering in tournaments. Wilson Chandler is questionable with a hamstring tweak. I don't think he should play, but it's certainly possible. If we would get word before rosters lock that he's not going to play, I think that would actually make Kenneth Faried pretty attractive at 4.7K. We've seen him post some monster stat lines in 24 or 25 minutes Wilson Chandler's been playing a lot of the 4, so I think that maybe Farid could see some of those minutes at the 4, even though he's been playing a lot of 5 so far this year. Nurkic and Jokic just aren't options for me in cash games. You can kind of flip a coin to pick one of them in tournaments. They always carry awesome ceiling because they're both really good players. You just never know what you're going to get out of them with minutes. I'm not really considering any of the other guards besides Moutier. Gary Harris is back, kind of taking him, Jamal Murray, and Jameer Nelson out of play for me. Danilo Gallinari hasn't really done much outside of score. He's another candidate to maybe see some minutes at the 4 if Wilson Chandler doesn't play tonight. But again, I'd need to see more from him across the board outside of his scoring, and I don't think this is a particularly attractive matchup. Ennis has been a pretty good individual defender, so if I'm looking to roster somebody from Denver, it's probably going to be Moutier or Farid if we get confirmation that Wilson Chandler will not be playing tonight. So that'll wrap it up for this 6-game slate. Good luck, everyone. If you watch this is my first time doing a live video cast. Definitely welcome any kind of constructive criticisms that you might be able to throw my way. So please do. And good luck to everyone tonight in your DFS NBA games.